Well, good afternoon, everyone, and we bring you greetings from Birmingham Bible Church worldwide, from wherever you are. We would like to welcome you and thank you for joining us here on today. That's right, folks, it is 12 noon, and you know what that means. This is our segment called Winning Wednesday. And so every Wednesday at 12 noon, we like to do a couple of things. We like to make sure that you are reminded that you can do all things through Christ who give you the strength, that you are a winner, and that we all have the victory. And not only do we have the victory now, but God will continue to give us the victory. And so if you are new, we also like to empower you and educate you with certain topics and current topics that are happening here in our world. So please, if you can, share this on Facebook. We are also on YouTube under BHAM BC, and we are under Twitter at tcowi.org. So make sure you share this with your friends, share this with your enemies, share this with your family, share this with everybody, because we have a great topic on today. Earlier this month, we had a doctor to come on and to talk to us about high blood pressure. Everybody has heard of high blood pressure, kind of know a little bit about it.
But Dr. Conrad Miller also talked about what happens if it's left untreated. He talked about how we can decrease our chances of getting high blood pressure. It relates to heart disease. It relates to all other kind of diseases. And so as we were talking, I was asking him about, of course, diet, and then Mediterranean diet came up. And he said, yeah, that is a really good one. And so I did not know much about it. I knew that it came about because scientists years ago had saw that certain people in our world just were not getting heart diseases, or they weren't getting them as much as we were. And so they linked it to the food they were eating. They linked it to this thing called Mediterranean diet. And so because at BBC, you know, if we want to know anything about nutrition, we always ask our good friend, Miss Larissa. I call her my friend. She is my sister from another mister. Her name is Larissa Strath, and so she is a nutritional scientist, and she knows basically everything there is to know about food. And so she breaks it down, makes it plain. I love that about her. And so I am looking forward to this information that she's about to bring. So once again, y'all please share this with someone, and let's learn more about this Mediterranean diet. So how are you, Miss Larissa?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Lady Pam. I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be back with you. It's always so much fun.
I do. I love it. You just break things down so that we all can understand it. We don't have a degree in science, and we don't know about molecules and amino acids and all that stuff, but you do. But I just thank God for you and just the knowledge He's given you to be able to share it with us on today. So thank you so much for being obedient and answering and heeding this call on today.
Oh, no problem. I consider this and sharing all this science as a form of worship, learning about God's creation. So I'm just going to jump right in because there's a fair amount to cover. And I do have a PowerPoint, excuse me, but I'm just not able to share my screen. I just need to be able to do that real quick.
Oh, let me see. Oh, there it is.
Perfect.
There we
All
go.
right. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. And like I said, I'm going to jump right in because I do have a fair amount of information. But yeah, like we were just talking, and as Lady Pam so eloquently introduced, we are going to talk about the Mediterranean diet. So this is something that, you know, a lot of people have heard of, but don't really know the ins and outs of. So I am going to do my best to break it down. Please, 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 if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and we will answer them as soon as we are finished the presentation. So a couple of things that we're going to cover in this time that we have together is a little bit of a background on what the Mediterranean diet, where it comes from, and what it is not. We're going to define that. Then we're going to get into, you know, what actually is the Mediterranean diet. And then third, how do I make my kitchen more Mediterranean style? How am I going to do that? So without further ado, the background. So if you are unsure of the geography here, the Mediterranean Sea is located kind of in the middle of Europe and also borders northern Africa. So there are a ton of different countries that make up the Mediterranean area. Like I said, Spain, Italy, Egypt, Algeria, Greece, all kinds of places. So what you're probably thinking is like all of these places have very different cuisines. Like we all go to Italian restaurants, we go to Spanish restaurants, we get French food, Greek food. So how do they all connect? Well, they are different in each country, but they are central in their commonalities in what foods they're eating. The way they prepare them might be a little bit differently. The spices that they use might be a little different depending on your region. But at their core, they're actually very, very similar. Now, what it is not. So the Mediterranean diet When we say the word diet, when a lot of scientists are talking about diet, we're not talking about a short-term extreme change of eating habits. I think in our culture, in modern day society, we hear the word diet and we think of things like Atkins diet and the keto diet and a low carb diet and things that we go on temporarily to maybe lose weight or to control our blood pressure, and things like that. But it's not usually a long-term thing. So when we refer to diet here on out, I want you to have this kind of mindset shift. Diet actually refers to a pattern of eating, and not just a pattern of eating, but a lifestyle that goes along with it long term. So without over your whole lifespan. So it's not a short-term change of eating habits. This is something that these people are going to be following for their entire life. So that's what it is not. So like I said, just to kind of, before we get into food part, there's a lifestyle that goes along with the Mediterranean diet. So if you look at the history of the Mediterranean diet, it's traditionally followed by a lot of farmers, fishermen, and laborers who are very physically active. So if you look at kind of the jobs that are done quite commonly in that area, these people are very physically active. They are moving. They are not like you or I sitting at your computer right now all day being sedentary. These people are moving, they are active. And one of the great things about the Mediterranean diet is the emphasis of cooking and eating at home, and not just at home by yourself, but with your family and friends. There is a very, very, very big emphasis on the social aspect of food and eating and communicating and connecting with others over food. So if you look at some of the lifestyle patterns of people in this region, there's no phones and there's no TVs and there's no electronics at the dinner table. And if you look at meals, especially dinner, the meal time lasts about 1 to 2 hours. It's not like a quick 15-minute, let's, shove the food into our face and, get back to whatever else we were doing. We're going to cook together. We're going to sit down. We're going to eat together. We're going to catch up. How was your day? And we're going to just hang out. And then something else is that there's little to no processed foods. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. But some of the health benefits of the Mediterranean diet have been really, really well documented. It is probably the most evidence-based and one of the, if not the healthiest diet patterns on the planet. Scientists have really, really been studying this, as Lady Pam said, because they noticed that people in this region, they weren't having high rates of high blood pressure and cancer, heart disease, all these different things. And they were like, well, what is it that's different? And they pinned it back to this lifestyle and also that the food that they were eating. So some of the things that they've noticed as well is that these people have a longer life expectancy, meaning how long that they're here on the planet. But not only that, more importantly, in my opinion, is they have a longer health span. So that is what is referred to as living vibrantly. You're able to do the things you want to do. You're able to get up and be active. You're able to go to work. A lot of people there will actually work a job that they love, and they'll work it into their 90s because they feel good. So on average, the research shows us that people living in this area in the Mediterranean have a health span of a decade longer than we do. So we are getting sick and slowing down about 10 years prior to people living over there and living this kind of lifestyle and eating these kinds of foods. There's a lot of evidence to support the Mediterranean diet with our brain health. So that when we're talking about cognition, we're talking about brain health. So these are things like your memory, processing speed, how quickly you're able to put things together, make decisions, think about things in your brain, as well as different kind of brain disease prevention. There's a lot of prevention against things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Another one is healthy weight management. People over there are really at a healthy weight without having to try very hard because of what they're eating and what they're doing every day. And then there's also a lower risk of those chronic diseases that I talked about earlier, the cancers, the high blood pressures, the heart disease, chronic pain, things like that. And we'll kind of get into more of the sciencey part of that as we talk about the foods. All right. So what does the Mediterranean look like? You're like, this sounds really, really good. How do I, what do I need to change? So, first and foremost, there is a wide variety of whole foods. And when I say whole foods, I mean, um, not processed foods, things that come in a package. I mean, an apple that is been untouched. I mean, grains that have not been refined down so that they're white. And these things are also local to the area and in season. So they often don't import a lot of their food. So again, we will talk about things being in season as we get into the foods, but some of the staples include, like I said, different preparations per country, but these are the staples that you'll see in their commonalities that they share. These things include beans, nuts and seeds, olive oil, red wine, water, seafood, probiotic dairy, and clean poultry. And we are going to get into all of those things very briefly here in a second. And one thing that they're limited in is red meat and sugar. Now, they do eat red meat. It's just not in the way that we eat. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. Like I said, there's no processed foods, and there's also not a lot of preservatives because the foods that they're eating are local, so they don't have to have a long shelf life. They're also in season, again, so they don't have to have a long shelf life. And one thing that's interesting is the recipes are often very, very, very simple, and they're not very complicated. And it makes you be able to appreciate the flavor and the taste of the food itself, rather than trying to cover up the flavors, the natural flavors, with sugar and salt and things like that. All right, so first things first, are probably one of our most controversial foods that is actually a staple in the Mediterranean diet is beans. So I know a lot of people have their thoughts on beans, but in the research that has been done, they're finding that people who follow a Mediterranean diet are eating about a half cup serving every single day. And so for context, a half of a cup of beans is about the size of a computer mouse. So it's really not that much. In our society, when we think about beans, we think about baked beans and things that have been cooked with bacon and sugar and all kinds of spices. And we also will scoop it and load it onto our plate. The serving size that I'm talking about is about this much. I know I'm guilty of that because I love baked beans. So, and we're also talking about just plain beans. So this is things like black beans, chickpeas, cannellini beans, all those things. And you might think that's very, very boring, but they're actually eating it in things as hummus. Hummus, if you're not familiar, is a chickpea and garlic dip that you often dip pita bread or vegetables in. Lentils, other kinds of bean dips and spreads. They're often made into soups, and they're also sprinkled on salad a lot of the time. And beans are super awesome because they are full of B vitamins, and B vitamins are important in helping convert the food we eat into energy. And they are also a good source of fiber. So fiber is actually not digested by our body. Because it's not digested, it helps kind of clean everything out and get rid of all the toxins. Fiber also, if you eat foods that are high in fiber, also helps prevent blood sugar spikes, which is super awesome. And beans also have a terrific antioxidant capacity. So if you're not familiar with antioxidants, basically what they are is they're these superhero molecules that I call them. And basically what they do is they kind of float around our bodies looking for compounds called free radicals. And free radicals are the molecules from things like smoking, air pollution, some of the unhealthy foods that we eat, excess sunlight, all those kinds of things that can end up causing some of the diseases that we were talking about, heart disease, cancer, etc. And what the antioxidants do is they basically find those molecules and destroy them before they have a chance to destroy us. So that is what an antioxidant is. And beans have a terrific amount of antioxidants. So the research shows that including half a cup of beans in your diet every day has been shown to help with healthy aging and that kind of healthy that health span I was talking about, so living vibrantly, as well as blood sugar spikes, because like I said, it has a lot of fiber. Now, if your stomach is getting upset thinking about beans, I know that is one thing that, like I said, it's controversial because some people, it makes them feel really sick. So the research has shown that about 10% of the population is lectin intolerant. So beans have a protein in them called lectin. And like any food, like gluten or lactose, if you get extreme stomach and bowel upset, and I mean like you are flat out after you eat beans, avoid eating beans. Don't feel like you need to eat them if they don't make you feel well. When we talk about dairy, same advice. If they don't make you feel well, if you get extremely bloated, you have a lot of gastrointestinal stomach upset, just avoid them. It's okay. You'll make up for it with the rest of the foods that we're going to talk about. So next is seafood, and this is one that was very interesting to me when I first learned about the Mediterranean diet. So people in the Mediterranean areas are eating about 4 to 5 servings per week. That is very different compared to us over here. I think at best, a lot of people are eating maybe 1 to 2 servings per week, and it's often prepared in a way that negates a lot of the nutritional value of that seafood. What else is interesting is because the Mediterranean had been fished out for a long time, has been fished out, there's not the same amount of variety as we have over here. And what they found is that the people there are eating a lot of cold water seafood. And these are things like shellfish, sardines, and smallmouth bass. So shellfish meaning things like lobster, shrimp, oysters, clams, things like that. They're not eating a lot of the traditional fish that we think about, like salmon and all that stuff. Because they are fishing locally, these are going to be wild caught fish. And because they have small mouths, their risk of having mercury contamination are way lower. So if you are going to try and incorporate a Mediterranean diet, you want to go for things like shellfish, smallmouth fish, sardines, anchovies, and limit larger mouth fish to lower your mercury contamination risk. So these are things like shark and swordfish, grouper, and tuna. And if you want to eat things like shark, swordfish, grouper, and tuna, make sure that you avoid farm raised because they're just the risk of them being exposed to mercury goes way up. So you want to make sure on the label that it says wild caught. Seafood, as we know, is loaded with omega-3s, and what your body does with omega-3s is it uses it to build your brain, build your eyes, and if you're building your brain, it's bound to aid in cognitive decline or brain health decline. So you're preventing a lot of brain diseases with omega-3s, with your memory, your processing speeds, and as well as inflammation. So omega-3s are naturally anti-inflammatory. And anti-inflammatory, I would say the Mediterranean diet is very anti-inflammatory, but to have anti-inflammatory foods is great because heart disease, diabetes, chronic pain, thyroid disease, depression, those are actually all grouped in inflammatory diseases. So the more anti-inflammatory foods, the more omega-3s we can get, the better. So now we go into grains. So grains are eaten very differently compared to the way that we like to eat them. They are often very low glycemic, and by low glycemic, I mean they do not raise your blood sugar a whole lot super fast. These are things that are high in fiber, and they are whole. So if you notice over here, there's not a lot of white. Everything still has a little bit of color to it. Even if it's naturally more pale, there's just not a lot of white. So again, about a half cup of serving at a time, about the size of a computer mouse. I don't know about you, but when I like my pasta, I load it into a bowl, and that is my main dish. And what was very surprising to me when I learned about, authentic Mediterranean food, and I'll pick on Italy because it's stereotyped and known for its pasta. If you actually go to an authentic Italian restaurant, pasta is often an appetizer. It is not the main meal, part of the meal. You're lucky to get 4 or 5 twirls on your fork, and then that's it. That's all you're eating in terms of pasta. So if you're ever wondering why people in Italy, if they eat so much pasta, how are they so healthy? Well, it's because they're just not eating as much pasta as we are. And often that pasta is not made out of white flour. It's going to be made out of whole grain flours. So what the research has shown is that there is a lot of better blood sugar management, cholesterol management, and weight management because of this. So there's also a reduced risk of heart disease, chronic pain, and diabetes, because there's just not a whole lot of sugar, not a whole lot of refined white grains and carbohydrates. They're still eating them. They're just not eating quite as much as we are. And they're also eating it in a different state. They're eating them in their whole form. Vegetables and fruits. So if you're wondering what they are eating as the main portion of their meal, if it's not pasta, it is going to be vegetables, fruit, and protein, lean protein. And we're about to get into those. We're talking 2 cups of vegetables at each meal. 2 cups, so about 4 of these computer mice. So if you look at your plate, I mean, you're filling your plate with fruits or with vegetables. And color here is very, very critical. I know the last time I was here, I was talking about eating the rainbow, because a lot of the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, they have color naturally to them, and they're often found in the color of your fruit and vegetables. So if you notice, like things like radishes, they're very, very purple on the outside. Some people will peel it off. Well, a lot of your nutrients were in that peel. And what's very, very interesting about people over there is that vegetables are cultural. And people over there crave vegetables, like I crave chips sometimes. They want to eat vegetables because, and believe it or not, you can actually crave them. And then often the way that they will eat fruit is they will eat it for dessert. So they will have a cup of fruit for dessert, usually things like berries, apples, whatever is kind of in season at the time. They'll take a little bit of sweet wine like Moscato and drizzle it on top, and that will be dessert. And because they're eating so many vegetables and fruits, they have a ton of vitamins and minerals. Like I said, they're going to be the things that actually will help convert the food that you eat into energy for your body to use. And all those vitamins and minerals are also going to help protect your cells and your body from diseases and infections and other things like that. Like I said, there's things called phytochemicals. Those are the things that give the vegetables and fruit the color. And a lot of those phytochemicals fight inflammation and inflammatory illnesses. So that, again, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, depression, anxiety. The list could go on and on and on and on. The other staple in the main portion of your meal is going to be lean poultry. So if it's not seafood, if they're not eating seafood at the time, it's often going to be lean protein. So this is things like chicken, game hens, turkey, and all of these things are also going to be local to the area. And what's very interesting is it's going to be about a 3 to 4 ounce serving of animal protein at a time. So again, about a computer mouse size. It's not like when we go out and we get our massive, massive plate of meat. I heard a podcast one time, and this man, he'd lived in the Mediterranean for a while, and he said, if someone who was originally from there saw the steak that we eat at a steakhouse, they'd think it was for an entire family, not for a one person. That being said, they are limited on their red meat. They're only going to consume it a few times a month. Red meat includes beef and pork. And it is often used as a garnish or a condiment. So people will put bacon on their salad. They might add a couple strips of steak onto, their soup or something like that. So it's just used differently, is all. So you're not consuming quite as much red meat, and you're going for more of the lean protein. Olive oil is another staple. So this has actually been very well studied. There's one very well-known study called the Predimed study, and they actually suggested that you consume about 1 liter per week of olive oil. So that goes out to be about 4 to 6 tablespoons per day. And if you're a little intimidated by that and you are like, well, do I have to get a straw and suck it back? No, it can be used to make dressings on salad. You can pour a little bit on your vegetables to give it a little bit of flavor. And it's often also used as a cooking oil. But I will forewarn you, if you are going to be using olive oil as a cooking oil, you're going to want to use it over medium to low heat. So high heat damages the oil, making it harmful to our bodies. So we're going to start getting those free radicals that I was talking about earlier. And it's also going to make the oil taste very bitter. And make it kind of taste gross. So if you're going to be cooking at a higher heat, avocado oil and almond oil are probably your better bets. They have a higher smoke point, so they can handle heat a little bit better. If you're also going to pick it, extra virgin is going to be your best. So extra virgin olive oil means that the oil has been squeezed out of the olives and on the pits. Regular olive oil uses chemicals and heat to extract the oil. Again, kind of leading us to having more free radicals. And you're also going to want to make sure you're buying them in dark glass bottles. Again, oil is sensitive to light, so that's why you want it to be in the dark bottle. And then you want it to be in glass because you don't want the oil to kind of suck in some of the chemicals from the plastic bottle. Eating, 4 to 6 tablespoons a day, according to this Predimed study, was associated with a reduced risk of inflammation, reduced risk of heart disease, and actually reduced risk of cholesterol, which was super, super great, and high blood pressure as well. Red wine. So this is my favorite one. Red wine has medicinal properties, woohoo! When consumed in moderation, though. And they've actually determined that beer and hard liquor are more harmful than helpful, unfortunately. So red wine is a staple, not only in the Mediterranean diet, but I know growing up, we kind of had that kind of Mediterranean influence in my life. So we always grew up having a glass of wine at dinner. So you're having about 1 to 2 4.5 ounce glasses per day. So at a meal, you will notice what they're going to do is they're going to put a jug of water on the table. You're going to have your water, and then you're going to have your small glass or 2 of red wine to go with your dinner. So red wine contains a lot of polyphenols, which again is just a fancy word for antioxidants, those superhero molecules. And they found that consuming red wine is associated with a lower risk of cognitive and neurological disorders. So those brain disorders, Parkinson's, depression, anxiety, as well as heart disease and cancer risks. So unfortunately for my Chardonnay lovers, it is only red wine that has these properties. So if you don't love red wine, you can start small, but try and include it into your diet because it has a lot of benefits. All right, another controversial one, because it can cause that upset stomach in some people, is dairy. They use dairy on a regular basis, but again, it's used differently. It is most often used as a garnish. So sprinkling cheese on your salad or a little bit of yogurt on top of your fruit, things like that. And what's interesting about the dairy is it is minimally processed. So it is very, very, very untouched, meaning that it's going to have a lot of probiotics, which is a fancy word for good bacteria, good gut bacteria. We have a host of bacteria that live in our small intestines and our large intestine. And research is showing that those bacteria are our friends. They play a huge role in our health. So you want to be able to feed them the right things. Plain yogurt. Yogurt is a staple. A lot of the times yogurt is used as a marinade on chicken and things like that. But it is plain. This is always a trick question that I like to ask people is, what do you think has more sugar in it? Ice cream or the store-bought fruit flavored yogurt? And it's there. Everyone is always like, this is a trick question. is it the yogurt? And I'm like, yes, there's actually more sugar in the, you know, kind of fruit on the bottom yogurt that you buy. It is much better. You get a lot less sugar, a lot less processed sugar if you just buy plain yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, and add your own fruit on top. And it actually will work out to be much cheaper as well. Also, cheese is used differently over there. They don't have cheese-based dishes, and they don't have huge slabs of cheese and consume it in large quantities. And there's also no yellow cheese. Cheese is actually not supposed to be yellow. Cheddar cheese, natural cheddar cheese, is actually not yellow, it's white. So a lot of this, that's just kind of a food dye, natural dye, to make it seem a little more fun over here, I guess. So cheese is used differently. They're not having lasagna with like a thick layer of cheese in it. So because they're using a lot less, and there's a lot more probiotics in the cheeses that they're eating. So they're eating things like blue cheese, gorgonzola. They have a high amount of bacteria in them. A lot of people don't have issues with dairy over there because they're eating less, and they're eating the kinds that are very probiotic rich and not very processed.
Larissa, you lost me till you talked about my yellow cheese.
I know, I'm sorry. I know. So yeah, so it's interesting, if you go over there, there's no yellow cheese. There's no fluorescent yellow cheese. Yeah, they'll have cheddar cheese, but because they don't process it as much, it's white. It actually kind of looks like this one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, has the same flavor. So not very processed, still has a lot of the bacteria. So it's not yellow. So that's all about the foods. That would be, you know, what kind of makes up the staples of the Mediterranean diet, and why you're seeing these kind of health benefits based off of the food staples that they're eating. So you're probably sitting there like, well, that's great. How do I make my kitchen set up this way? So I have a few slides for you to screenshot to make your own little lists. Go through your kitchen, see if you already have the things, you just haven't been using them super often. Maybe you just don't know how to cook with them. There's lots and lots of resources, lots and lots of websites with recipes and how to cook Mediterranean style dishes. These are going to show you again, or how to make your own pantry kitchen setup. So first, some of the tools you might need if you're not used to cooking at home. These might have some dust on them, or you might not have them. Don't feel like you have to run out and buy all of them. Maybe buy yourself one thing every couple months as a kind of a gift to yourself. So we're talking about having sharp knives, scissors, cutting boards, different kinds of saucepans, skillets to saute things in, spoons, whisks, large soup pots, because like I said, they eat a lot of soup, a lot of bean soup, peelers, cheese graters, a lot of mixing bowls, glass storage containers. So the same idea with, we were talking about the olive oil. You're going to want to try, if you can, to store your food in glass, because a lot of the harmful chemicals from the plastic won't be able to seep into your food. And never, ever, ever heat something in the microwave in a plastic container unless it is BPA free. I would just go for glass. You might want to invest in a good blender or a magic bullet. I have a magic bullet, and I find that that works great. Oven safe dishes, baking sheets, things like that, because you're going to be cooking a lot at home with your family and your friends. So here's where you have your screenshots if you want to take them. So go right ahead. So there's a bunch of different spices on here. But you kind of use them differently depending on what kind of region you're talking about. So if you're making Italian, you might have things like Italian seasoning or thyme, oregano, basil, things like that. If you're going Greek, you might have dillweed, black pepper, basil, all those kinds of things. If you're going for more of those kind of northern African countries, places like Algeria, you're going to have more things like curry, cinnamon, cardamom, all kinds and kinds of good stuff. And there is sea salt on here, but it is used minimally. It is used at the end of cooking because when we cook with salt, this is something that I am very passionate about telling people. When we cook with salt and we use it in the cooking process, what happens is the salt will start to break down and you will lose the flavor, but not the sodium content. And sodium is going to be what is going to be hiking up your blood pressure if you are having issues with blood pressure. So if you use your salt at the end, if you just put a little bit of salt on at the table, you'll actually use a lot less, get the same kind of flavor that you're looking for without the harmful effects of eating too much sodium. So some more oils, vinegars, and condiments. Here's your next screenshot. So you're gonna have things like extra virgin olive oil. Like I said, you're gonna wanna get it in dark glass bottles. If you are cooking at more of a high heat, avocado or almond oil is best. Red wine and balsamic vinegars, those are used often to help make dressings. And some people, it's a lot harder to find over here. It's very easy to find over in the Mediterranean is walnut oil. And it is very good on salads. If you can find it and it is in your budget, I highly recommend giving it a try. Other things, hot sauce, very commonly used. Tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce. Dijon mustard, and chicken or vegetable stock. Those are things that you're going to want to have on hand if you want to make Mediterranean style recipes. Next screenshot is your nuts and seeds and jarred and canned foods. So nuts and seeds, I mean, whatever you really like. These are the most common ones that you'll find in Mediterranean style foods. So these are things like almonds, pistachios, walnuts, pine nuts, and sesame seeds. So they're used in the cooking process and they're also used as garnish as well. When you are buying jarred or canned foods, make sure that when you look at the can, it will tell you if it has a BPA-free lining on it. So that's that same chemical that we're talking about that's in a lot of plastic containers that is often lined in cans so that the food doesn't stick. So beans, we talked about beans first, cannellini beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, whatever bean you want. Artichoke hearts is another really big one. They're found in the same section as the beans. They're usually found in glass containers, also by the sun-dried tomatoes. Sardines, not my personal favorite, but apparently a favorite of people over there. Olives and tomato paste. So those are some of the staples that are used in cooking. Next screenshot, frozen items. I love buying things frozen. Things like poultry, chicken, and turkey are great frozen. Fish, if you're gonna buy fish, make sure that it's vacuum sealed or fresh if possible, because it's going to prevent that fishy flavor. I know a lot of people don't like fish because they're like, it tastes fishy. If you buy frozen fish and it is vacuum sealed, it will help with that. And things like berries are awesome if you buy them frozen. There's often a variety of vegetables you can get that are frozen if they're not in season, that are actually going to be more nutritious for you than if you were to buy it fresh and it's been imported. So like we said, a lot of vitamins and minerals are sensitive to heat and light. And a lot of the time when we don't eat our foods that are in season, that are fresh, they have been brought on a truck and they've sat in the grocery store under the lights for however, who knows how long. Whereas a lot of frozen foods have actually been flash frozen at the source. So they kind of maintain all of their vitamin and mineral content. Dairy and other items, plain Greek yogurt. Like I said, if you're going to buy yogurt, I would go plain. Dark chocolate is another great one. We're talking about 80% or higher. It doesn't have a ton of sugar in it, and it also has a lot of antioxidants, a lot of those superhero molecules I was talking about that kind of float around and find all of the harmful ones and get rid of them. And this is optional. This would probably be the most processed food that someone in the Mediterranean would eat, and this would be more of a modern day treat, is protein powder. So if you are someone who struggles with getting enough protein at breakfast, having protein powder, protein shake that is lower in sugar, if you are vegan or sensitive to dairy, buying a plant-based protein powder is great, but try to incorporate a protein powder if you can. If you do get enough protein through your eggs, through the fruits and vegetables, whole grains that you're getting, then you don't need to worry. And then last, or I think it's last, but certainly not the least, fresh produce, lemons and oranges. If you're going to be using the zest, I would highly recommend buying organic because they won't have any of the pesticides kind of in the peel. Onions, garlic, shallots, which are just basically tiny little onions that are a little bit sweeter. Avocados, leafy greens, bell peppers. I mean, the list goes on, and whatever is in season at the end. I usually find if I start to pay attention to my food cravings and my vegetable cravings, it does change with the seasons. When we're in fall, we kind of crave squash and fall vegetables and pumpkin and kind of those things that are more hardy. Those are when those things are in bloom and they're ready to eat. In the spring, we kind of are thinking about kind of this more springtime vegetables, things like celery and fennel, beans, all those kinds of things. So pay attention to what your vegetable and fruit cravings are, and you'll find that they kind of wax and wane with the seasons, which is very interesting. Yes, so that was last but not least. So again, I always love coming. I always love chatting. I know that was probably a lot of information at once. So if you have any questions, we will answer them. We still right on time. I was aiming for 40 minutes and I was right on the nose. So I will stop sharing so you can see me. There I am. I'm back. And I will let you take the floor with questions, Lady Pam.
Oh, thank you so much, Larissa. I had questions before your presentation. I think you just really answered all of them.
Okay.
That was great. I mean, you went through each food. You talked about the serving size, the importance of it, and just how this is not don't think of it as a diet, but a lifestyle.
Mhm.
I did have a question. Is eggs okay? I thought you mentioned that a little bit towards the end. So eggs is fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
in terms of milk, I know at our house we drink almond milk, but if somebody's not an almond milk person, can they do just regular milk?
If you are not dairy intolerant, regular milk is fine. But if you aren't someone who likes dairy milk or it does give you an upset stomach, almond milk is good. Oat milk is good in cooking. I find that it is more plain and it doesn't. Some people don't like to cook with nut milks because they're like, well, it tastes like the nut, and I don't want it to taste like whatever nut the milk is made out of. So I find in things like if you're making mashed potatoes, for example, that wasn't on the list, but it's my classic example is I don't want my mashed potatoes to taste like almonds.
Right.
And so I find oat milk a great substitute as well. But many plate are soy milk as well. Soy milk has a lot of protein as well.
Okay. And then when it comes to olive oil, and I never thought about the glass jar. So when we buy it, it's in a plastic container. So do we need to take it out and put it in a glass container?
If you do, you're gonna open it anyway. So I would, if you have, if you go to Home Goods, I was actually at Home Goods the other day. They have really inexpensive glass containers that either are dark in color or are painted so the light doesn't get in. I would put it in there and make sure that the lid is on really tight because air is also going to kind of convert the oil into those harmful compounds. So make sure that you have the bottle that is dark. It gets really, really tight, and it has a lid on it as well. Like it has a little cap on the top so that you're preventing a lot of air to come in.
Okay. And that's something that I did not think about is, storing things in plastic containers. I forgot all about that. And I, and who doesn't have like 50 million plastic containers in there?
Mm.
I need to make sure they're BPA free. I didn't think about that. But even like you said, not heating it up. We need another session on how to store your food. I know you talked about that before in another session about making sure things are stored in a dark area because the light can kill those vitamins and those minerals and storing fruits and vegetables. Talk about that one more time about in the refrigerator. Talk about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. First, I'll say that if you guys are interested in any of food storage, anything, I would highly recommend reaching out. It's actually my aunt, Kelly Clark, and her tag is Happy Carrot Cooking. She is the food storage queen. So she's got a lot of really, really great tips and tricks. So, but to answer your question, for fruits and vegetables and things like that. So different vitamins are sensitive to various environmental, I don't want to use the word trigger, but we'll call it a trigger, triggers for the vitamins. So vitamin C, for example, is very sensitive to light. So it is best to have fruits that have a lot of vitamin C in them to store them in a dark place. That's why the fridge, when you close the fridge, not only is it more energy efficient, but when you close your fridge, it's now dark in there and you're not going to be getting rid of a ton of vitamin C. Other vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin B, they're all sensitive to heat and air. Oftentimes they're in your fridge, you'll have the vegetable drawer. Put your vegetables in there because when the vegetable drawer closes, it's going to prevent the circulating air from kind of reaching those vegetables. And then also because it's in the fridge, it's going to be cooler. There are some vegetables that if you just store them out of direct sunlight on your kitchen counter, they'll be okay. Those are things like carrots and root vegetables will be okay. But a lot of other things like oranges and lemons and bell peppers would be better to store them in the refrigerator.
So that means for all of us that we need to make probably multiple trips to the grocery store. Hate shopping time. I'd rather do it like once a week and just kind of get it over with. But we have a larger family, and
Right.
so if you're doing that, if you have multiple people in your family, you need to make those multiple trips so that you can store those foods properly.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into the lifestyle piece of things. If when you go to a lot of European countries, they will often purchase for 1 or 2 days. Because they're getting a lot of their food locally. So they don't really have to go very far. Whereas here, we have a lot more food deserts. We have a greater distance in between stores. Think about just geographical size of a European country versus the US. So things are just a lot closer. So if you do want to go once a week, that's fine. You just have to make sure you're storing things properly. But I always find it fun to kind of make those multiple trips, and you kind of get to like see what's on sale this day and see what's local this day. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. But yeah, a lot of people over there, they will buy 1 to 2 days and they'll walk to and from the grocery store, which I think is really neat.
And Larissa, talk to maybe you can put out there. I haven't ordered it yet. The Misfits Market.
Yeah. Okay. I love it.
I think my husband signed up for it, and but we haven't ordered yet. But I get the Facebook pages and all that. Talk about that as far as your vegetables, how you can get that just delivered to you.
So Misfits Market is a great service. I have used it for probably the last 3 months. And what they do is they find all organic produce. and it's why it's called misfits is because there's a certain visual standard that grocery stores have to attain when they're putting out their produce. And so the misfits basically get sent to this misfits market. So they might have, a carrot that's kind of grown into 2 carrots, or something that was just too small or too big. It just looked funny. So they couldn't sell it. And what they do is you make your own box. My dog is talking to me. She's like, I want some food as well. They put it in a box and they sell it to you for probably about 60% off retail price. So these are all organic, fresh produce. And what you do is you go through, you place your order each week of basically what they have. It does go kind of by season. And they will send it to you in the mail. It comes in very recyclable packaging, compostable packaging, which is super awesome. I'm going to let my dog out 1 second. She wants to go.
Okay, he's not bothering us.
There we go. She wants to chime in as well. They send it to like BPA free, compostable packaging, so their economic or environmental footprint is very, very low. Even the ice pack that comes in it is the plastic is compostable. And whatever's in it, you can put down your drain and it's not harmful. I've used it for about 3 months. I get mine delivered every 2 weeks and I love it. It's awesome. So Misfits Market, super, super, super awesome. It's not available in every state yet, but for my Alabama people, it is available in Alabama.
Yeah, and I brought that up because a lot of times we think, oh, it just costs so much to eat healthy. Not when you have things like Misfit Market, those staple items like beans and brown rice, whole grain bread. You can go to you can go, I call it the bread house, but you can go to those bread houses and get, get a whole grain. And so, it's not as costly as people think it is. And I think I have one last question for those people who want to slowly be worked into this. And we talked about this before on another live. The 80-20 rule, do you recommend that? Just maybe getting somebody kind of slowly integrated into this long-term lifestyle of eating?
Yeah, that would probably be the best way to do it. And even if 80-20 is a lot to start off with, because, I study food a lot and I also know that switching your diet can be difficult. Even so, if 80-20 seems a lot as well, so 80% of the time you're eating healthy, and then 20% of the time you're having kind of those fun treats. I would, if you are kind of flopped right now and you're having 80% treats and 20% healthy, maybe start with 50-50.
Yeah.
Like just start at 50-50, then go to 60-40, then 70-30, and then 80-20. So take your time, because it is hard to make a drastic switch.
Yeah, it is. No, well, thank you so much, Larissa. I'm going to share my screen just to do a few announcements, and then we're going to kind of finish up at the end. We're going to tie it all together. Um, so thank you everyone for joining us here for this winning segment with Miss Larissa. She did a wonderful job just really talking about the Mediterranean diet and the benefits of it. And so, of course, it just ties in with our theme of our Reconstruction 2021, because we are reconstructing our bodies on today. And so keep that in the forefront of your mind as you continue to go about your daily business. And this is Reconstruction 2021. And don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Don't forget our virtual hangouts that we have going on. Tomorrow we have our small group, which is going to be at 7:15 p.m. So we have a slight change in that as opposed to 7, because Pastor Mason is going to be on a panel discussion with a local attorney here in town, Katrina Brown, about Christ and the entrepreneur. So that's going to be tomorrow at 6:30. So our small groups will begin at 7:15. And then on Friday, we are having some fun, couples and people who are dating, Battle of the Sexes night. It is in honor of Date Your Mate Month. So if you want to participate in that, that's going to be Friday at 7 p.m. Please let me know by tomorrow by 7. Make sure you text me for those of you who have my phone number, but you can email Lady Pam at tcowi.org. And then every first Sunday of the month, we have our drive up worship celebration in the parking lot of the MLK Center at 529 43rd Street North here in Birmingham, Alabama. But we will still be streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And then on the 18th of June, we have our virtual business expo. So those of you who have a business and want to present it to the world, expose it to the world on another level, please contact us. We actually will have you after the worship service celebration, and you can talk about your product and service as well. You can text me or you can email me at ladypam@tcowi.org. And then we're so excited because in honor of Father's Day next month, we are having our Men's Awareness Summit. We have 6 of the brightest and best people who are going to help empower our men and educate our men and get them fired up, get them ready for Father's Day, which is going to be that following Sunday. And y'all are going to hear from Miss Larissa again. She's going to talk about nutrition pertaining to a man's health. But as you see, we have great speakers. We have a psychologist that's going to talk about men's health. We have a Mary Kay consultant that's going to talk about a man's hygiene, his facial care, his skin care. We have a man talking about about man's finances. Another gentleman talking about a man's spirituality. And then we have one of our bishops. He's going to talk to us, and he's going to tie it in all together. Just have a conversation with you men. And so that's going to be on June the 19th, Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. And then we have our ladies pajama party, and really excited about that. It's summertime, ladies. We're wearing natural. We got relaxed hair. I don't know. We're wearing braids. I'm getting mine in a couple of weeks. And so we need to know how we can take care of our hair on the inside as well as our outside. The outside is what we see, but the inside is really how we get our hair to grow. And so we got Miss Larissa again, y'all. She's going to talk to us again about foods to eat in the summer. It's going to be a ladies' party. It's going to be nothing but ladies. And so this is a private event. Miss Shannon Smith, who used to be my hair stylist back in Atlanta, she's going to be on. She has multiple hair salons, and she also has her own line of hair care products. So very interesting to hear that. So we're gonna have some fun. That's going to be June 25th at 7 o'clock p.m. on a Friday. Please register with me. This is a private event because it's a pajama party. So you can text me or you can email me at ladypam@tcowi.org. And then, of course, Pastor Mason is in the midst of a series, The Church That Jesus Built sermon series. Hear him every Sunday right here at 11 o'clock a.m. And then our prayer room call is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. You can dial 515-604-9324, and the access code is 381179. Don't forget, y'all, we are sponsoring 11 beautiful, wonderful children of Haiti. It's Compassion International. Thank you for all of your donations. They go towards food, medical supplies, counseling needs, educational needs, for their physical growth. So thank you so much for that. And we are coming up to a fifth Sunday. Every fifth Sunday, we give sacrificially towards our land, towards our future. And so please give towards that as well, because we are wanting debt-free land. We want debt-free buildings for Birmingham Bible Church so that we can continue to minister to the world. And so just for a recap, don't forget to go back and watch all of our services. We have Winning Wednesdays. On this past Saturday, we had Miss Katrina Brown. She gave a word to our graduates, had a graduation ceremony for them. So please go back and watch. They stay up there forever. So you can go back and watch and be educated on that as well. And of course, just have an awesome week, everybody. So thank you so much, Miss Larissa. You gave us some great, wonderful information on the Mediterranean diet. I was teasing my husband. I said, let me go ahead and eat this now because Miss Larissa's going to cut all this out when I hear all today. The struggle is real, but it's beneficial for us. It's to help us have, mental growth, mental health, so we can remember. We have a lot of things that we have to do now that we have to remember, and so it
Mhm.
helps with that. Heart disease, just to kind of limit that. Hopefully, to even decrease Alzheimer's and dementia and all these things that we used to didn't see. And so this was great. This was awesome. I enjoyed it all. And so if you can tell us one more time before we leave, how people can contact you, all of your handles on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and your
Yes.
email, all that good stuff.
Um, I will put, hang on. I will put them all in the chat. But if you want to get me, I am on Twitter, just at Larissa Strath. I am on Instagram as at Larissa Jane 6 or at Cooking Well. And then also my email is lstrath@uab.edu if you have a question that you want to get answered.
Yes, awesome. And also, we look forward to the cookbook that's on the way.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Once I finish this dissertation, I finish my first book, and then I will work on my.
After you get this dissertation out the way, she's becoming a doctor, y'all. So she is
Yeah,
almost there. So thank you so much, Larissa, for I know, hallelujah. The little squirrel emoji, hallelujah.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for this. And Facebook fam and Twitter fam and YouTube fam, please, once again, make sure you share this information. Take this information in. We don't just have these to be having them. We really want to educate everyone so that we can live longer and be better, not only for ourselves, but for our family as well, too, because God has put us here on this earth for a purpose. And so we need to live out that purpose and make sure we're healthy doing it. So thank you so much, Larissa, for taking time out of your schedule. And thank you,
Welcome.
everyone, for watching us. Thank you. And we will see you next month.
Yeah, you'll see me again.
Have a great week.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.